Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grandstand Sports Data. In today's video, we're giving you the first round betting preview between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll be going through the fundamental factors, the technical handicapping. We'll be giving you our models predictions, and we'll also be running through the betting lines in this video. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's move on to the technical handicap in here in this matchup. You can see the Minnesota Timberwolves hold the edge in both power ratings. So here at Grandstand Sports Data, they're a 4, and then in basketballreference.com, they are also a 4. Whereas the Lakers are about 13th and 14th in those respective stats. Now, you will say they didn't play a full season with Luka, which is going to drag those numbers down, in my opinion. That's how I look at it. We might be able to touch on that in the next slide when it comes to the fundamental handicapping, but just letting you guys know they didn't play like the 13th or 14th best team in the league this year. They were much better than that. Moving on to some of the offensive metrics, you can see they're about even in some of the ones that are more important, except for about offensive rebounding percentage. That's where Minnesota kind of pulls away from LA when it comes to the numbers perspective. You will see, though, in terms of free throws per field goal attempt, for those who think that the NBA is a pain in the ass and favors some of the big name players. Well, LeBron James just happens to play on a team that gets the most fouls called. So for those who need that excuse or have it, there it is. So it's there. And I'm not saying, and I'm not gonna come here and bang and say, oh, the NBA is rigged. I'm not saying the NBA is rigged, but what I'm saying is that favorable players get favorable calls, basically in any sport. Moving on to the defense now, you could see I would say Minnesota's defense actually has the clear edge here. They're better in terms of their defensive rating. They're better in some of the, I would say, lesser stats because they're labeled in green and blue. Remember, those stats don't necessarily correlate to victories, while orange and red do. Moving on down, you could see. Well, I'll finish with the defense. The Wolves are the more complete defensive team. They're better in the defensive rating, shots contested, and then also turnover creation. So I didn't want to just blow by that and act like it wasn't anything. It is something. When you move on to differentials, though, the Wolves are one of the more elite teams in the NBA. Net rating being fourth in the NBA, pretty huge there. They're virtually even when it comes to their efficient field goal percentage differential. You got to go back to that last stat again with LeBron James and Luka on the same team being their number one in terms of free throws per field goal attempt differential. So obviously that plays a factor going into the playoffs and teams getting to the line. So if you were to ask me who has the edge in the technical stats, I would say that it's Minnesota. They're basically more balanced. They're stronger. They have the better net rating. They're elite on both ends. I mean, I would go as far as to say that. Lakers can hang if they dominate free throws and protect the ball, but that's just a narrow win path. So the Wolves have more predictable, sustainable statistics in that edge. Okay, so let's move on to the fundamentals now. And this looks like one of those classic matchups between depth and balance versus superstar weight and postseason dominance, right? The Timberwolves would be the team that obviously satisfy that more evenly distributed production, whereas the Lakers are that Hall of Fame talent and Luka Doncic. So it's a classic matchup, right? It's like in boxing, the speed guy versus the power guy, and so on and so forth. But just moving on to the player quality here, since we're here, Minnesota has a total 24 win share when it comes to their experience throughout their careers. Win shares per 48 is a .749, not too bad there. Gobert and Connolly, they're both 8.4 and 8.0 when it comes to their win shares, so that's bringing that veteran playoff experience. Next would be Michael Jordan. Excuse me. Sorry. Anthony Edwards. My Minnesota fans, that's crazy. Comparing him to Michael Jordan after one series win. Anyways, that's an argument for a different day. But he's climbing fast at 3.6 win shares. He's doing good in each game at .160 and for his win shares per 48. So he's obviously the go-to scorer in big moments. So even though I'm making a little bit of fun, he is a good playoff performer. Overall, solid efficiency across the top 8 for Minnesota, but I would say no true playoff megastar just yet. So the Wolves are built on that modern balance. Multiple players can contribute at playoff pace, but none carry legendary equity like over here on the other side, the Los Angeles Lakers. They have a 71.5 win share, so drastically more than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Also, they have this guy called LeBron James. 58.7 in terms of his total win shares. That's the most of any player in the NBA in NBA history. He's the outlier. He carries nearly 82% of the total playoff win shares here in this series. Luka and Reeves, they're bringing the efficiency scoring as well. Luka, obviously, he plays great in every single game. I wouldn't want to say every single game, but he plays up to a great level. I will say that one thing, just on a sidebar, when you see players, superstar players, you'll see them with basically a zero point 0.2 win share. Those guys I would label the superstars. They have a high win share and they have a high win share per 48. Usually you'll see zero point 0.2 or higher. So just to let you guys know, when you see going forward, guys are just missing that zero point 0.2, they're not necessarily those big mega stars. But you're going to see guys like Kawhi, LeBron, they have 0.2s. Jokic, 0.2s in terms of win shares per 48. They're basically given more than 20% of the production from themselves to their team. Lakers, they have LeBron and Luka, and that's basically they're hoping that that's enough. Their upside is real, but their success leans heavily on those two guys. Now moving up to pace because we skipped that. Both teams are basically slow and they're deliberate, so this series will be half court heavy. So if your total's better, take a look at that. It's going to be a slower pace than normal. Home court advantage, that's going to go to the Lakers. And since it's a slower pace series, you got to remember games are going to be close. That can be huge for home court advantage. Slower games are close, and then they're playing at home. That could be a good edge. And that's why I'm going to give the edge to the Lakers here in the fundamentals. I think that one player, I think you've seen it throughout NBA history, that if you have the best player, more times than not you will win. Now, does that mean you always win? No, not necessarily. But teams with the better talent usually win. So LeBron's postseason profile, it's basically unmatched. And the Lakers' top end efficiency makes them dangerous late in games. If you're Minnesota, they have the better depth and balance, but the series could swing on 2 or 3 clutch possessions a night. And LA Stars might be better equipped for that, especially Luka and LeBron. Now moving on to some of the handicapping factors, you can see these aren't just stats, these are the factors that have historically led to profit in playoff betting. So each one is color coded based on who owns the edge, and the units column shows how predictive that factor has been over the last 5 postseasons. We're going to move on to offensive rating, where Minnesota actually has the edge there. It's profited $1.48 for every $1 bet, so they're slightly more efficient overall for Minnesota. Moving on to their defensive rebounding. That has profited about 87 cents for every $1 bet. So it's big in playoff pacing, but it stops extra possessions. You get the idea when it comes to defensive rebounding. Turnover differential, huge, right? Even though they don't protect the ball great, they force enough turnovers to still win the battle, and that's going to be the edge for Minnesota. It has profited about $8.37 for every $1 bet. So Minnesota's strengths show up in the key control stats, that offensive efficiency, rebounding, and then that turnover margin. Everything that you want your basketball team to have the edge in, they have it. But let's look at the Lakers now. They do have an edge in efficient field goal percentage. Now, not necessarily the biggest profit, but it's up 19 cents for every $1 bet. It's marginal, but it suggests shot quality and shot selection are really solid. Their turnover percentage, not too bad here. Big edge here for the Lakers. They really give the ball away, and they're up $8.94 for every $1 bet. And then moving on to free throws per field goal of 10 differential, they're up $7.54 for every $1 bet. This is the real profit maker. The Lakers get to the line more and give up less. So this is often the hidden edge in playoff games. The Lakers thrive in high variance, foul heavy games. Got to take a look at that. If the whistles are frequent, they're going to be the model for success in this series. So if you're looking at some of the trends, they look like they split. I think Minnesota may be the sharper, more balanced team, but the Lakers own the volume possession factors like turnovers and free throws that swing betting outcomes. Take a look at that. I think this is a slight edge for the Lakers. Minnesota wins in these clean basketball metrics, but the Lakers win in whistle-driven and possession-based categories, which have more predictive ROI in playoff betting. So if this series becomes about control and flow, Minnesota has the edge. If it gets physical and the whistle blows often, the Lakers turn it into a profit. Okay, so these charts are going to show each team's performance against the spread from game 55 through game 82. This is when the lines are the tightest and the market efficiency peaks, and then also competition starts to rev up. You can see Minnesota went 39 and 43 against the spread all season long. They were down $7.51 for every $1 bet, and their return on investment was down 9.2%. So it was at a loss instead of a gain. You can see, despite being a strong team statistically, the Wolves have underperformed relative to the line. You can see that as well. This suggests that the market priced them as elite, but they didn't consistently deliver margin over expectations. I would agree with that. And even to fight, or they fought hard to try to keep average throughout the season. Well, that red line represents their average. There was peaks and valleys, up and down, and they've been flatlined in value. So that's something to take a look at when it comes to covering the spreads. They do it here, they do it there, not all the time. Moving on to the right side, which would be the Los Angeles Lakers, they went 45 and 37 against the spread this season, profited $3.95 for every $1 bet, and their return on investment was 4.8%. The Lakers have been consistently undervalued and outperforming the spread. This big surge about from game 60 to 68 shows the market adjusted late, but they stayed profitable even after that. So this is just bettors maybe getting some good value on the Lakers more often than you'd expect in for from a public team. I would say that most of this came from. I maybe should keep this for the next slide, but it mostly came from Luka. The production had kicked up a bit. So if you're just looking at this kind of 1,000 feet away, looks like the Timberwolves are overvalued by the market, even though their advanced stats look great, while the Lakers were undervalued, especially late season. So that's rare for a team with LeBron on the roster. But remember, I think it's because of Luka being an addition in the midseason. So the market has respected Minnesota, but they haven't lived up to that respect. Meanwhile, the Lakers keep beating the number quietly. The betting insight for me here, I think the edge lays with the Lakers against the spread. So if you're betting game to game in the series, LA spreads may offer more value. Minnesota needs to prove it can convert quality into covers and not just wins. It's real important. Okay, so let's move on to the money line side of things now. So these are the results of money line bets, not just whether a team won, but whether backing them straight up made actual money. So this helps spot teams that are priced below true value, which in this case would be the Lakers, versus teams that win but are not profitable, which would be the Timberwolves. So you can see, just starting with the Timberwolves, they went 49 and 33 straight up against I was about to say the spread, but just straight up this season. Down 51 cents per $1 bet, and they also gave a negative rate of return, minus a 0.6%. So despite being a strong regular season team, the Wolves were not profitable to bet on straight up. Why? It's likely overpriced by the market. They win often, but at odds that offer little return. So their line never got hot. They hovered around break even the entire second half of the season, and they still played above average, I'd like to note, though, because that red average line, they still picked it up towards the end of the season. So I don't want to just, crap all over them. They did perform when the going got tough. Moving on to the Lakers now, they went 50 and 32 straight up. They were up $12.04 for every $1 bet, and they were up 14.7% if you bet on them blindly for every single game. So the Lakers, they won slightly more games than Minnesota, but returned over 12 units in profit. So that's a massive edge. The market never really trusted them, so bettors cashed at a great price, and the curve is steep. They gained about plus 10 units between games 55 and 72, and then held their value down the stretch. I wonder why. Might have been because of Luka. It's pretty obvious. So Minnesota, you look on their side, that's going to equal overvalued winner, while the Lakers are undervalued winner. So one team got the wins, the other got the cash. That's basically what it comes down to. So if you had blindly bet both teams all season, you'd be down money with the Wolves and you'd be up double digits with the Lakers. That's a clear sign of public misperception. So me, if you're asking for my edge right here on the money lines, I'm gonna go Lakers again. I think that the Lakers continue to offer positive rate of return, even with public exposure and rare. That's rare and powerful. The Wolves win games, but don't create much value. So you're often paying too much for their actual value. Okay, so moving on to the series betting lines, you can see the Lakers are favored to win the series at minus 195. Timberwolves are at plus 160 underdog. Also, the line is set at plus 1.5 games for the series. The over under also set at 5.5. It's shaded towards more the over. So the market looks like it's going to say Lakers in 6 or 7. That's what it looks like here when you're just looking at the market. It looks like Minnesota's going to cover that 1.5. So yeah, I would call it 7. The market respects LA, but also expects this to be competitive. So not a sweep or a walkover. It's going to be a tough series. Our models predictions, we have 10,000 Monte Carlo simulations. We have it just as tight. We have the Lakers winning 54% of those matchups and the Timberwolves winning 46. So that's a very, very close matchup in the series, 4 games to 3. Very close. The model believes is nearly a coin flip. I'd also like to say that the model's predictions is not our actual pick. I know people are going to come in the comments section. They're going to say, oh, you got it wrong, you loser. That's not what this is doing. This is taking the stats that correlate to win percentage and margin of victory and running our model based on those and giving you the results. That's all it's doing. So we're basically running a model for you. That's it. That's simple. And that model thinks that Minnesota is going to cover the spread. So they're going to cover that 1.5 game. Lakers will win outright at that minus 195, and then the over in the series at minus 175. That looks like the obvious situation there. So Minnesota has value on the spread if the series is as tight as predicted. Lakers are still the most likely winner, but not at ideal odds. I think the value is thin on their money line. The best bet probably in this, or the most, I was gonna say the total, but even the total at minus 175, unless you have a really good model that predicts the totals, that I think that's a little bit too much juice. Uh, so our model favors the Lakers by a nose, but the value may lie in backing Minnesota to keep this series close or betting on the over 5.5 games. The Lakers have shown that they can win, but the Wolves check more boxes statistically. So this one should go deep, should be real close. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in to the NBA first round playoff preview. We hope you had a great time and picked up some awesome information. Now, don't forget to subscribe to Grandstand Sports Data for more great shows like this one. Also, don't forget to give this video a like and share it with your friends. And leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win this series. That's all for now, and we'll see you guys in the next one.